Thanks for clicking. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this one.
Architects are supposed to shape skylines. But at Gleason and Wright, all we shaped were egos. The firm had been around since the 80s, slick buildings, bigger egos, and a glass conference room no one could afford to break. At 27, I was one of the youngest junior designers in the office. My name's Sky Beaumont. Graduated top of my class, interned in Dubai, had fresh ideas and software fluency no one else touched. But none of that mattered, because I worked under Grant Maddox. Middle-aged, Rolex flashing, legacy hire of the co-founder. Grant was the kind of guy who took long lunches, dropped back when I was in Milan, into every conversation, and pretended SketchUp was cutting-edge tech. He was insecure about his aging portfolio and allergic to anyone else shining too bright. So he made my job a daily exercise in silent rage. "Sky, just trace over my sketches," he'd say, tossing a wrinkled napkin with a coffee ring over it. "Clean them up, no changes." He hated feedback. Hated collaboration. Hated when interns liked my renders more than his. Worst of all, he kept taking credit for my work. Quietly. Consistently. Client presentations, interviews, even a city zoning meeting, I'd watch my designs on the big screen while he stood in front, talking like he'd pulled the vision out of thin air. "You're here to learn," he said once. "Not to lead." What I learned was how to smile while being stabbed in the back. It all came to a head when we landed the Blackridge project, a high-rise residential tower on the waterfront. Big budget. Big visibility. The firm's prestige was riding on it. Grant was lead designer. I was assigned as his support. That meant handling the grunt work, doing the digital models, preparing files, mocking up floor plans, all from his napkin drawings and half-baked ideas. I tried offering suggestions early on. "Hey, this facade layout will block half the sunrise from units on the east side." "Sky," he said, "just do the design exactly as I drew it. No improvising. No notes. If I find one deviation, you'll be reassigned." He even put it in writing. Sky Beaumont is to follow direction precisely and replicate my approved sketches with no independent changes. Cool. No problem. Let's do that. So I did. I followed every single line of Grant's sketchbook like it was gospel. Even the ones that made zero structural sense. Even the 12-foot balconies with no visible support. Even the windows that lined up with load-bearing columns. Even the lobby design that forgot to include ADA access. I modeled it all. I rendered it in stunning detail. I made it look exactly like his vision. He loved it. Told me I was finally learning. He took the final package and presented it to the board of directors and the client, without changing a thing. I watched quietly from the back of the room as the Blackridge project was greenlit. 3 weeks later, the City Planning Commission sent back their review. And it was savage. The city's feedback came in a massive PDF file titled, "Blackridge Tower, Preliminary Compliance Review." I opened it quietly at my desk. Everyone else was still celebrating like they'd won an award. I read every word, every page, and started grinning about 3 pages in. Because the city hadn't just flagged the design, they destroyed it. Code Violation 4.18a, Improper Structural Support for Cantilevered Balconies. Code 7.03, Lack of ADA Accessible Main Entrance. Fire Code Issue, Stairwell Placement and Spacing Inadequate for High-Rise Evacuation. Zoning Contradiction. Residential units blocked views protected by shoreline development law. Sustainability shortfall, less than 8% green material compliance. Requirement, 35%. Oh, and my favorite? Window placement appears to intersect with structural columns. Please confirm if structural engineer has reviewed. If not, revise immediately. Spoiler alert, we didn't have a structural engineer assigned yet. Grant had insisted we just pitch the concept first. And this wasn't just a slap on the wrist. The city put the entire project on hold. Indefinitely. The partners weren't laughing anymore. Neither was Grant. He called a design review emergency at 5:30 p.m. sharp that Friday. Everyone had to stay late. I showed up with my laptop, calm and quiet. Grant stormed in with the printout, slamming it on the table. "Who changed the design?" he barked. "Who edited my specs?" Everyone looked confused. Then a few turned to me. "I didn't change a thing," I said evenly. "I followed your instructions to the letter. Every balcony, every window, every misplaced column, it's all exactly how you sketched it." He turned red. "That can't be. There's no way I made this many errors." I opened my laptop and mirrored it to the conference screen. One by one I pulled up his original sketches. And next to each one the exact render I'd created. Side by side. Identical. The room went dead silent. Then I pulled up the email, his email, saying I was to make no changes whatsoever. You could hear his pride deflating like a balloon. The partners were not happy. Grant tried to pivot. Well, she should have caught these. That's her job. No, I said calmly, my job was to replicate your designs. You made that clear, multiple times. In writing. Partner number 2 chimed in. Wait, you actually told her not to fix obvious code violations? Grant stammered. I assumed she'd use discretion. And get reassigned? I replied. You threatened to pull me from the project if I changed anything. I clicked again. On screen popped up the email. Do it exactly as I drew it. I don't want your opinion. I want precision. Grant. That was checkmate. That night, the partners had a closed-door meeting. The next morning, Grant was placed on creative leave. 3 weeks later, he was transitioned out of the firm. Internally, everyone knew what that meant. And me? I was assigned a new mentor, senior architect Dahlia Chin. Smart, practical, collaborative. The kind of boss who actually liked when juniors had ideas. My first day with her, she dropped a thick folder on my desk. Redo Blackridge, she said. From scratch. This time we do it right. I spent the next 4 months leading the redesign. Added rooftop gardens. Repositioned the stairwells. Opened up the east face for full morning sun. And yes, ADA ramps and elevator cores were the first elements I placed. When we resubmitted to the city, it passed with near-perfect marks. Our firm kept the project. I got a lead design credit. And my name? Was on the press release this time. But the final cherry? At the next industry mixer, I ran into Grant. He was wearing a blazer that didn't quite fit. Said he was consulting independently. I smiled politely. He asked how things were at the firm. Oh, we're good, I said. Blackridge is back on track. Guess they finally listened to some of my opinions. He winced. You know, he added, you never really played the team game. I grinned. No. I just followed instructions. Exactly. Then walked away. In the months after the Blackridge disaster and Grant's graceful exit, life at Gleason and Wright finally felt real. Ideas flowed. Collaboration returned. I wasn't just a junior designer anymore. I was the go-to for digital renders, compliance logic, and honestly, client charm. People started calling me the quiet architect. Not because I didn't speak, because when I did, people listened. The new Blackridge design went public. And it was a hit. The render was featured in 3 industry blogs and picked up by an architecture magazine for its fresh, human-centered interpretation of vertical living. Best part? My name was in the byline. My concept was quoted. And my model was praised for bridging aesthetic and accessibility. It felt surreal. 6 months ago, I was tracing balcony doodles from a man who couldn't read a codebook. Now, I was walking city officials through emergency egress layouts like I'd been running point for years. The firm gave me a raise. A title bump. And, this was big, a spot on our internal innovation board. Which meant I got to mentor younger designers. Teach them what to push, what to question, and when it's okay to say no to bad design. One intern asked me, what if someone orders you to do something you know won't work? I smiled. Then you follow their instructions, exactly. Let the blueprint collapse on its own. As for Grant, he popped up now and then, on LinkedIn mostly, talking about creative vision and consultancy work, though no firm seemed to list him as a partner. One day, I heard he applied to do freelance design support for a smaller firm in the suburbs. Guess they didn't need a guy who builds buildings that can't stand on their own. The final twist came at a city gala for green design initiatives. The Blackridge redesign had qualified for a sustainability recognition. I was invited. During the cocktail hour, a familiar face approached me, Mr. Gleason, co-founder of the firm, and the guy who once told me junior designers should stay in the background. He raised his glass. You know, he said, I used to think junior staff just needed to watch and learn. And now? I asked. He grinned. Now I think we need to get out of their way more often. We toasted. And somewhere, in the back of my mind, I imagined Grant choking on his cocktail at home just watching the social media posts go live. The lesson? Malicious compliance isn't about being petty. It's about being precise. It's about letting bad leadership write their own resignation letter, one unchecked sketch at a time. The end.
And that is how a junior designer used nothing but obedience and a USB cable to take down her overpaid, underqualified boss. This story wasn't about sabotage. It was about compliance with precision. It's the perfect example of how sometimes the best revenge isn't screaming or quitting. It's quietly following orders until the consequences right themselves. Sky didn't have to make a scene. She didn't bend the rules. She didn't even raise her voice. She just did her job exactly as told, and let reality sort out the rest. Have you ever had a boss who demanded complete control, only for it to blow up in their face when you followed orders too well? If you were in Sky's position, would you have done the same? Or would you have tried to warn them and risk the fallout? Drop your best malicious compliance stories in the comments. I read every one. And honestly, they might inspire the next video. Don't forget to tap like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more satisfying workplace justice, real-world karma, and corporate takedowns. Until next time.